Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Ford the Frontier out here in beautiful Martinac State Park. I'm Michael Mitchell, Bronco Specialist with Preston Ford.
And I'm Greg Roman, another Bronco Specialist from Preston. We are bringing the Bronco out into the wild and having a lot of fun with our outdoors. Today we're going to be setting things on fire.
One of these central pieces of any camp out is, of course, the campfire. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but first and foremost, you gotta be safe, because the last thing you wanna do is be disappointing Smokey the Bear and burning down your campsite at the same time. That's just bad. That's a bad call. So as you can see in the back here, we got about 5 gallons of water just in case we need to set the fire out in a sudden fashion. And naturally, you're gonna wanna make sure that you're using a designated fire ring or that you've cleared the ground around you of anything that you don't want to catch fire. Because when it's dry out or when you have a lot of dry leaves on the ground, things can spread pretty quickly.
So what do we need to have a good campfire? We need dry fuel, we need kindling. And like Michael said, we got to be in the right spot. So we've got our campfire ring set up here. We've got kiln dried firewood. If you're in the woods or camping anywhere, you want to either use wood that you can collect at the site or use something that was kiln dried to kill any pests.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing. You don't want to be bringing in any emerald ash borer beetles or anything that's not supposed to be where you're setting the fire. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can actually build a fire. In the end, it's all gonna be fire, but there's a couple of different ways you can actually get that started. There's a teepee style, very traditional. There's also a log cabin style. We're gonna start by showing you how to get that teepee constructed.
Yeah, absolutely. When I use the teepee format, it's especially good if you've got wet ground or if you've got mixed shape materials. So bigger and smaller logs can lean together. If we start with a bigger log straight in the center, standing straight up, that can make a nice base for us to lean in. And then using some smaller pieces, you can build a little lean-to. It's going to give us room for kindling underneath.
Now, the kindling is a very important part. Big old piece like this will burn eventually, but if you're just trying to set that in a fire pit and set that on fire, you're gonna have a bad time. The kindling is what gets this thing started. It's like the lighter on your grill.
So we brought some dry newspaper, and that's handy. One of my favorite fire starters is this special fat wood, which you can get usually at any hardware store or camping store. Fat wood is saturated with sap so that you can light it on fire like a candle. It'll burn pretty hot and get bigger pieces going.
Let's get a couple more pieces around this side here. Now, say you're out in the middle of nowhere and you have to get a fire started pretty quickly. What's some of the stuff that you've heard that can be kind of an emergency fire starter? Because I got one that I think is going to blow your mind.
Are you going to say gasoline? Mike, that's a terrible idea.
No, gasoline is definitely combustible, but I was going to say Doritos. Yeah, apparently they actually make a pretty solid fire starter. All the oils that they got in there and the fact that it's a corn chip will actually burn for a decent amount of time, and you can actually throw that in a fire pit and get something built around that.
Mike, I don't even have Doritos in my house. Where are you gonna find them in the woods?
Well, typically on the Dorito tree, but we're definitely not in the right climate for that.
So, rough example here of a teepee built fire, and with a quick light, this'll get up to temperature pretty quickly, and you can add larger fuel. But what we're going to be using this fire for today is cooking, and we need something that's a little bit more level. So I think we might want to go with a log cabin format.
Yeah, log cabin's a little bit easier to build too. You don't necessarily have to worry about getting things to balance against one another. It's basically like you're playing with Lincoln logs from back when you were a kid, except this time you're going to light them on fire. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a couple of these bigger pieces on the sides like this.
Yeah, I like to start with bigger pieces too. One of the important things to get a fire going, you need not just fuel and heat, but you need air. So there needs to be some draft that can get in and under the fire and up. So if you start with a couple of larger pieces spaced apart, then you can get a row of small pieces over top.
Just like that.
And you want to place your row pretty close together, but with gaps big enough that air, heat, and flame is going to come up and through. So smaller pieces on one layer, we can do slightly bigger pieces on the next, and maybe one or two more across the top.
Nice little roof on our little log cabin. And then of course we're gonna need our kindling again, so we get that newspaper and that fat wood right back underneath.
One piece of newspaper underneath, and 2 or 3 pieces of fat wood go a long way. So just slide those in. Over and under.
All right.
And if you're ready, should I do the honors?
Please.
The campfire is such a central thing when you're out here in the woods, you know, and it just helps you connect to nature, to being outside, and just being with people around a fire the way that, you know, man has since early times. You know, there's something just emotional about a fire. It's both functional, keeps you warm, helps you cook your food, but the, you know, I mean, the social component of, I mean, that's why we get out in the woods, just to feel good, and yeah, there's just nothing like sitting around the campfire.
Absolutely. That social communal aspect is just one of the best parts about it. Now, one of these days, eventually we're gonna have to put this fire out. And there are definitely some safe ways to do that. That's why we got that big old gallon or 5 gallons of water back there. Even once you've doused the fire completely, there can still be hot spots in the coals. So you want to make sure that you've gotten good, even coverage when you're putting the fire out, as well as, obviously you don't want to touch it, but get your hand close there, see if there's any hot spots in there that can still flare up, because even if there's no visible flames, there's still a danger that something could catch fire. And the last thing you want to do, like I said, is disappoint Smokey the Bear. That's just not a good way to camp.
So thanks for joining us again today on Ford the Frontier. Please like and subscribe to the Preston page. We'd love to have your comments, and love to hear from you.
Yeah, if you got a preferred way to build a fire, you got pictures of an impressive fire that you had out there, let us know. We want to see it. In the meantime, I've been Michael Mitchell, joined here.
Greg Roman.
Thanks for watching. We'll see y'all next time.